Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to this evening's Planning and Highways Committee meeting on the 14th of March. I'm not going to read all this because I think you all know what the procedure is, but can I just remind you to put your phones on silent or turn it off, please. Right, so we go on to agenda item 1, apologies for absence.
Councillor Buchanan is away, I think.
And I've just had Councillor Borman contact me.
Thank you.
Item 2, disclosure of interest. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosure of pecuniary interests and interests other than pecuniary interests as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. Nothing? Thank you. There's no public participation, so we go on to agenda item 4, planning applications. Received in the week commencing the 19th of February, LW/24/0085, 9 Lady Cross Close. Replacement of existing conservatory with single-storey side rear wraparound extension. Removal of existing front porch and rear chimney stack and alterations to the fenestration at all elevations.
It's been dormant for a few minutes, so it'll come to life in a minute. If you bear with it. Right, so have a look at the existing and proposed elevations. The existing are those with the blue windows, proposed there. So it's a single story wraparound extension. You should see there. To replace that sort of lean-to there. And as far as the size of it's concerned, looking at the block plan, it's a pretty typical enlargement. Lost the cursor. Cursors. Yes, it's to wrap around at the back and without having too much of an impact on the front. So it's just that, and there's no objections and there's no real impact on neighbours as far as they can see from the block plan. 58 is set further back, as is 56.
Okay.
Well, Kingston Way, that is. It's obviously backs onto Kingston Way. It's Lady Cross Close is at the front, obviously.
Councillor Richard Hannam first.
Yeah, I'm assuming on number 56 that's the garage, isn't it? On the left, but on the right hand side of it, isn't it? So it's about there's essentially a gap anyway, isn't it? Between the numbers. I'm okay with it. I mean, it is a very substantial extension, but I can't. It's not enough to. It's almost like modernising it slightly as well. It's probably tired anyway in a lot of ways. So while you're at it, extend it as well. So I support it.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
It's an interesting one because I went round there and I couldn't actually. You can't see it because this particular number is hidden from the street view. You have to almost go through a hedge and find the property. So it's on quite a considerable piece of land in actual fact, but those properties do have quite big gardens. But it's a nice close, and other areas have got similar garages and and have done extensions. So I wouldn't have thought it was anything out of kilter with what's happening there already or has happened there already. It's quite a pleasant little area. It's not a very big close. It's got about 10 houses basically. Yeah.
Are you seconding?
So I'm quite happy to second Councillor Hanneman.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other?
I think it's proportionate, so it's fine.
I mean, I did pick up that there is a side window, but on the plan you say it's going to be obscured, so that's quite acceptable now. Okay, so can I have a show of hands supporting this application?
That's supported unanimously, thank you.
LW/24/0081, 14 Old Nursery Close, Section 73A, retrospective application for a combined bin store and bike shed at the front elevation.
This has the advantage of already being carried out, so you can see exactly what you're dealing with. There's 4 objections from residents of Old Nursery Close to say it's obtrusive and in front of the building line and sort of spoils the character of the open plan type character of the close, and 1 letter of support. It's the planning statement with the photos that's probably the most useful thing to look at, because as I say, it's got the advantage of having already been carried out, so it's there we are. So that's it. I mean, anything in front of the building line requires permission, unless it's something very temporary. It's one of those cardinal rules of planning. Anything you seem to be able to get away with quite a lot at the permitted development at the rear of the property, but anything in front of the building line is sort of sacrosanct. And so even, I mean, it's relatively modest in a way, although given the character of the close, it makes it a bit more sensitive, but it still requires permission. And in this case, it's not just for the wheelie bins, it's for storage of bikes as well. It's relatively large dimensions, and it's quite a helpful supporting statement because it gives the dimensions.
Yeah, I've got it. It's 1.7 metres high, 3.5 metres in length, and 1.5 in depth.
So there are arguments for and against, obviously. So it's really a question of whether you like it or not, because the wheelie bins are not the prettiest looking things to have outside your house, but it's obviously it's a common problem what to do with wheelie bins. But this is quite large, and it's in front of the building line in a close which has been in a way carefully planned to be open plan and without too many fences and barriers and things in the way.
Okay, I've got Councillor Mark first.
Well, I've been to have a look at it. It's quite obtrusive or intrusive, I would say, within the close and the planning of the close, and where people have obviously spent quite a lot of money buying houses there. To be looking out and seeing that is not pretty. It's really very big. So it's unfortunate, I would suggest, that this is a retrospective planning application, because I'm not sure what everybody else is doing with their bins in that close. They've all got very similar properties and they're all managing to do something with them, so there may need to be a more creative approach to dealing with that. But if they all had one of these outside their properties, it would not be the close it is at the moment, so I think it would be most unfortunate. So I kind of feel it's totally out of character for the area, really is.
So your proposal?
I would propose that they have to remove it.
Okay, I've got Councillor Richard coming in.
Yeah, obviously it's in North Ward, which is actually all three of ours wards actually, just coincidentally. I'm mixed feelings about it. I'll see what the others say. I mean, it's unfortunate. We obviously got rid of the garage anyway, so that didn't help. But the garage is now another bedroom, or another, I think it's a bedroom where the garage is. So obviously it's in front of the garage, effectively. So I mean, I'm also concerned it's a bit of a security risk for their bikes as well. I mean, that's something else I did. Just advertising against all the bikes are. I was wondering if they could relocate at the back of the property in any way and use a back gate. I mean, they have got a back gate, I think, so.
Yeah, there's a side entrance.
That's what I'm going to say. Can they relocate that into another part of the property and their back garden somehow? That's what I would be more happy with, and then they could wheel out the appropriate day when it gets collected. Both the recycling and the normal, you sort of wheel it out the side anyway. The same with the bike. I think that might be the better option. I'm not sure. I didn't see any car there when I went past.
No.
There are two cars there.
Yeah.
We saw a street view picture with two cars. There's a white car.
Yeah, there's a car there.
So is that one of the cars?
Yeah.
Oh yes, that's space for another one.
There was a white car as well in another photo I've seen on street view. There.
Oh, there you go. Right. So you've got grey and a white. Yeah.
There's three different cars. Yeah.
Oh, I see. That's before they decided to.
Yeah. So they just probably might be. I think he said it 3 adult children. So there might be 3 cars. I don't know.
Well, I can see why they've done it, Chair. I can see why, but I don't think they're doing it in any sinister way, anything like that. But it's the planning side, isn't it? We're looking at here, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's the enclosure of the storage box, or the bike store is what turns it, because if it was just a modest bin store, it wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, you might.
You'll still need permission probably of being in front of the building line, but as you say, it did occur to me, it's not really wise to have bicycles stored at the front of the house like that anyway. But perhaps the room. Perhaps the space at the back is at a premium, and
possibly,
but that may be because of the sort of developments they've had carried out. So you just don't know.
Sally and I both went to have a look at it. In some ways, I think it looks neat and tidies up the front. But obviously what we can't sort of be doing, and this is what obviously the residents who have commented on, is the fact this has been done without getting planning permission first. And obviously this is now being done for retrospective. I mean, looking at that picture now compared to what they've done now, it does look tidier with what they've done.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, but I suppose the fact is, other people have to get permission first. And having that area is very open, and having looked at what the neighbourhood plan shows with bike storage, a lot of them are more tucked out the way, and the pictures that it shows in the neighbourhood plan and everything that we've been to look at, they're more tucked away, hidden,
Yeah,
so they're not so noticeable. So either they need to soften it, but I think people need to be getting planning permission first. But it is very difficult because the way that layout is in the old motorway is so open. It's very open, so you're seeing everything.
Yeah, but Councillor Kelly.
Yeah, am I right in thinking there's no garage attached to this?
No,
It's gone, yeah.
the garage is the side extension.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Where you'll see from the photos from a distance, the extension was set down. The garage was there, but they've had a double-storey side extension, which is set down slightly from the roof, as it should be under the guidelines. That's taken the place of the garage.
Yeah. Okay. I must admit, I've got mixed feelings about it.
Yeah, I mean, I must.
Sorry, just one thing about Councillor Honeyman. As I mentioned to you earlier, it's difficult not to take umbrage at the fact that he's applied for this retrospectively, but firstly, he's entitled to apply retrospectively. Secondly, you can't hold it. It's not a planning reason. I know. You can't refuse it because he's jumped the gun, as it were. And in this situation, I think it's understandable, perhaps, that he thought it was a relatively modest wooden box, as far as he's concerned, I suppose, the storage. And perhaps he wasn't aware of this sort of sacrosanct rule in planning that anything in front of the building line needs permission. If it had been at the back of his house, he wouldn't have needed it, probably, because it wouldn't be looked on as an extension, really. So perhaps, thinking about it, he wasn't bound to assume it needed permission, and you can't refuse it on the basis that he's jumped the gun. You have to look at it as if it's a notional planning application for what's there.
Yeah. Would granting permission set a precedent, and if it does, would that be a planning consideration?
I think they don't like the word precedent in planning because the planners at the local authority will say, well, you don't get precedents in planning. You have to look at each application on its merits. But the wording I'd use, if I were objecting to it on the basis of precedent, would be that if you allowed it, it would be difficult to resist other applications. That's sort of the magic words, if you like. But you can't say it will create a precedent, because they don't seem to like that. It's a bit too black and white. But it definitely will make it more difficult to resist similar applications from similar residents. So you can say that if you object to it, you can always add that reason if you wish.
Councillor Hanneman?
Yeah, I know obviously what Councillor Hanneman was saying regarding the retrospective side, but I suppose it's the residents. I think she was sort of saying the residents don't like a bit retrospective really, because they see it there, and then all of a sudden they think, well, how do they just put that up and out? And I noticed in the briefer in this statement, I mean, could you tone it down a bit to blend in more with the colour scheme? I mean, that might help a bit.
He offered to paint it an appropriate shade of.
Get it more with the colour of the bricks or something. And get this. At the moment, that's more light brown, and the bricks are more red, aren't they?
Yeah.
The planning, so that
it
could be one option.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you were supporting it, I'll say it's very much 50-50. I think I mean, I can see exactly where all the arguments for and against are coming from. But if you were to support it, I think you want to add this. But it needs to be stained or painted in an appropriate colour.
How I feel about it, I'm sort of 50-50 as well. But when I first looked at it, and I thought, I think wheelie bins are ugly at the front of houses, and they should be out of sight. And I could understand it more if there wasn't a side entrance. But because there is a side entrance, I just feel, why not put the bins either up the side entrance and the bicycles, which would be probably more secure. If it was just the bin shed, I could accept it better, but it is the impact what it's going to have on the close, and because it's open plan, that's really why I'm steering to object. Councillor Martin.
Just on the second picture there, I don't know if you can see, there's a small roof. Is that a shed in the back of the garden? There.
Might be.
So, I mean,
That might be a neighbouring.
Have a look at the.
have you got?
We've got the block plan, yeah.
Look at the location plan. It's
Let's have a look.
quite a good one because it shows you exactly where the house is situated. It's at the end of that cul-de-sac, isn't it?
Yeah, getting on that way, that one.
It's quite a good one. Yes, it's the garage of that one.
Yeah. I thought it was.
Yeah. So it's
So
one of
they've
these
got
sort of.
quite a narrow side
Yes.
and quite a lot in the front.
For
parking,
Yeah.
they're the same size, but bigger at the back.
I think I've come back. I think we should try and locate it at the back. The bikes.
If it wasn't, if they didn't have that side
know.
entrance, I would feel,
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Then I'm tendency more to say no at this stage because they didn't have the side or no backs. If they got the side. If the side or not a back, then I can understand. I'd be more for it.
Yes, I mean, it seems to be just for convenience, and in order to keep a relatively small rear garden, free from too many objects and obstructions and things, which is, you can understand it, but it's the outcome of that
but
it
they
doesn't.
can just sit at the side, can't they?
The wheelie bins seemingly really only take up maybe less than half of the whole thing. They're just there. I don't know if people usually have two bins. Maybe he probably doesn't need a bin for his garden because it's quite small, so he just has the two bins. And that's relatively modest.
Yeah.
But
That's the
it's the bike.
Look, obviously, don't have the comparison chair. Obviously, if you look when you go back to that location plan, you see the side of the gardens in neighbouring Cameron Avenue. You see the difference. Some modern housing estates are smaller gardens. Look at the side of the properties on the garden side, anyway, next to Cameron Avenue, but to the left there. There's quite a difference, isn't there, really?
They're mature properties, aren't they?
Yeah, but they're older, and the newer ones are generally a bit smaller, aren't they? But
Yeah.
that's just how it is, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just shortage of land.
right. Can I have a proposal of which way we're going to go?
I shall object in the sense of in front of the building line, effectively. That's the main objection. And what is there is out of character with the area.
What Councillor Markwell said.
Oh, is that what you said? So it's words, yeah. I mean,
It's sort of intrusive, not pretty, too big, spoils the character and layout of the close. That's really it in a nutshell. As I say, it's just the size of it. Really.
I mean, can we say there is possibly an alternative at the back? Can you put it part of there is an alternative location, possibly in the rear of the property? Can we make it positive?
That's for them to. I mean,
It's up to them, isn't it?
it's
It's up
pretty
to them,
obvious.
really.
Yeah.
It's really that. I think perhaps if you should mention that having to house the bikes as well as the wheelie bins makes it too big. Whereas implying that if it's just the bins, it wouldn't be quite so bad. Or do you want to sort of just say no, we don't like it? Or I suppose you could say, taking into account the size of it, and it's there to accommodate bicycles as well as the wheelie bins, it's too large and intrusive.
I mean, I think if you look on the plan for that road, I don't know if you've got the cursor there. So if you move it directly across to stop. No, a bit further over. No, to the right, to the right of the screen.
Right of the screen.
Next one. No. That one. Yeah, that one. That's the same type of property with a tiny bit with some space at the side. So where do they put their bins? So I kind of think that there are other people in the close who have a similar problem with their bins, but they don't have a bin store at the front.
Yes, I mean, it's convenient to have.
The argument for saying, the problem is the argument for talking about the bins is one thing about having a full household. I understand that. They didn't have that many bins there. The problem is that they've actually built a bike store.
Yeah.
And even though we're very happy to encourage cycling and all that kind of stuff, and environmental stuff as well, but they also have 2 cars on the front as well. And I don't know, I mean, it certainly as you drive in there, it is quite clearly there. And I'm not sure painting it would make any particular difference. And even though it's a retrospective application, if we were looking at it new, not retrospective, we will probably be saying the same thing, that
Yeah, I think so.
the
size of
the
it.
build, the size of it is too big for the going
That's
over the front line of the house.
That's the facts. It's at the
It's just
front.
unfortunate that they've already built it and put it there.
Mm. And it's open plan.
But it is very open plan,
Mm.
and that is the nature of the close,
Yeah.
and that is an issue for planning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got all those points in if that motion's carried.
I mean, we are empathetic, sympathetic with the situation,
Mm.
and also there is, that people are not happy with it, which I think is important to hear the fact that people aren't comfortable with it either.
Yeah. So sorry, Councillor Markwell, you were the proposer, weren't you, to start with?
So I'm happy what
Then-
Councillor
and
Markwell
then
says, yeah.
Seconded by
Second, yeah, second. Yeah.
Councillor Richard Hanlon.
Yeah.
Can I have show of hands?
I was just going to say I'm still mixed, but I will vote against it on this occasion.
Mm.
Right, well,
Are we going to?
Show of hands.
Well, this is against.
Against,
Yeah.
yes.
so it's a unanimous objection on the grounds that we've been through. Do you want to say that you're sympathetic to the need to
I do
tidy
feel
up the
sympathetic.
appearance?
Yeah, I do feel
Yeah.
sympathetic,
Yeah.
and I agree with what Councillor
Right.
Hanlon says,
I'll
that
put
it
that
does
in.
look neat and tidy,
Makes
but
it tidier.
unfortunately, it's not, it just
It's a-
isn't appropriate for where they are living
Yeah,
in that respect.
right, I'll
And
put
if they
that
can
in.
create other choices for themselves, I'm all.
Mm.
Okay.
I think it will.
I think the hard choices at the back, so now if you do.
Right.
Well, it's practical what they've done.
Anyway, there we are.
Right, planning applications received commencing Monday the 26th of February. LW 24 0130, The Cottage, Grove Road, 2-storey rear side wraparound extension, installation of rear terrace and alterations to the existing front and side fenestration.
If I just get the existing elevations up so we can compare the two. It's a relatively modest dwelling at the moment in a road where most of the dwellings are on a larger scale.
Yeah, they're much larger,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. And you see that from the block plan, which I can show in a minute, but that's the existing relatively modest cottage, and that's the proposed dwelling after the wraparound extension has been added. So it's not set down as it should be under the guidelines, but the extended part you can see in red, but there's been no effort to scale it down, so it appears as one large house appearing from one small house. But as I said, and as you know, if you know the road, it's quite a prominent road, isn't it? That as we can see from the plan, it looks, the scale of it is far smaller than the houses around it. Location. Yeah. Just blow that up a bit. I'll just get rid of that. And scroll up. Gives a better idea. So it's got a lot of room at the back. But you can see, I mean, number 16 is quite large.
And the one next door has got quite a lot of additions to it
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there was an objection for number 16, I think. Or am I imagining it?
Not when I looked at it.
No, it must be one other one I was thinking of. Anyway, that's it really. The
Councillor Richardson?
before and after.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I thought I also read, I think they already got permission 21. Well, I'm thinking of something else.
That's it, yes.
So is it similar? So in a lot of ways, this is almost like renewing, and I don't know how similar.
Yes.
If they've already sort of got permission.
Sorry, yeah,
before,
I should have mentioned that.
I didn't read that. So
I think,
some was it on the design exit statement possibly?
yeah, it's mentioned in the list somewhere. Decision notice, yeah.
Oh, you go. I didn't read that. I read the.
Yeah, it's that had a
Oops.
that was similar. It was a different detail. It had a Juliet balcony
That's right.
and rear terrace. So you're right to point that out. It's not different size wise from that. Yeah, I should have brought that to attention before. Do you want to have a look at the plan of that one?
Yeah, go on. While we're here, got a big agenda tonight.
Oh God! I wonder what happened to that. Sorry about this.
Don't want to take time.
You can't find it. I'll go this way.
Related cases, did it not do that? No.
I'll put the address in.
On week commencing 21st of December
Yeah, I've got
2020.
it now. Thank goodness. I'll put the right reference in. Still. Different
That's different.
architect, but it looks roughly the same from the south, and that's the frontage. It's turning it into one large property. Yeah. Yes, I had looked at that application before. Somehow slipped my mind.
So rang a bell.
Yeah. So really, there's nothing much to say against it. They've applied within if you apply within 3 years, or is it 4, either I don't think it's an automatic renewal, but you're bound to get permission unless there's a change of circumstances, change of policy or anything like that. So in this case, it's a slight change of design, but it would be bound to get permission. I think it's just a technical renewal. So.
Councillor Littlehampton?
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is retrospective,
No,
and it's not, I asked the wrong word. As it's an expired one, obviously it was already given permission, so I was quite happy to go forward with it.
Councillor Markle?
Just in terms of planning law, are you happy? I mean, it does look good as a house, balanced, but usually the roof is set back slightly on the extension. So where are we with that? I mean, given that other properties in the road seem to have the most odd extensions on them, I mean, it's not conforming to anything else that's similar because they are all pretty slightly different properties and they all have changes in garages and they all look. They're not particularly uniform properties in that road.
There's no fixed character, is there? No, I think it would be asking a bit much, considering the previous consent, to ask them to scale it down. I mean, I think in some cases it's justified. It's where as Councillor Markwell says, depends on the character of the street.
Yeah.
If it's a very, very mixed character, as in this case, and as the original dwelling is a smaller scale anyway, you'll probably be asking a bit too much to recommend that the plans are modified so that it comes within the guidelines, because of what's happened in the history of it. So I think, yes, I think you've really got not much choice but to support it.
Okay. All right, anyone?
Just a couple of comments. Have they got, if we do approve what we, the one on the table, can they go back to that one or not necessarily?
Yes, they can go back to it. Well,
depending on what they find inside, you know.
Yeah. It might depend. It might.
Tricky one.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? You see why I asked the question.
You can keep a consent alive by partly implementing it. In this case, it's not strictly speaking renewal because there are slight differences in the design. So I think they could. The old one will probably expire quite soon, if it's not already expired, because they haven't implemented anything yet. So it would all come on to the more recent one. If the new one gets consented, that would be the one that they would implement.
I mean, it's like the neighbourhood plan was early days, wasn't it? In that.
The neighbourhood plan was in force when the previous application was approved.
Yeah.
Only just, probably.
Only just, yeah.
I think that application would have come in February 2020, and that's the month the plan was approved and adopted.
Yeah.
So it was before we got used to having a neighbourhood plan around as a reference.
I mean, do we, sort of make reference that, because it is a new application, so we have to look at it as a new application.
If you want to, you could say, the committee would normally like to see a large side extension, a two-storey extension, step back and scale down in line with the guidelines, but acknowledge that in this case, the planning considerations are affected by the previous consent in 2020, and just say, well, support it subject to those comments.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
Everyone's happy with that?
Yeah. So it's,
Okay, we go propose.
So I'll propose that with that comment then, Jeff, yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Does that find a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Craig. And can I have a show of hands, please?
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
I'll just make a few notes. Right, thank you.
LW stroke 24 stroke 0134 42 Chinkton Way, single storey, ground floor, rear infill extension and alterations to existing rear fenestration.
I've lost my way. Oops. Sorry. I lost my little window to the agenda, so good job we haven't got 20 applications to deal with tonight. Otherwise we'd be here all night. I've got sticky thumbs at the moment. It doesn't move. Jensen Way. This is very minor infill.
It is indeed.
But we'll have a look at it. Its plans are helpful because they're both on the same sheet. Just filling in that gap there with another extension to the rear. So, and as far as the block plan is concerned, you'll see how small it is. Just that little bit there to sort of round off the back. So they needed to put an application in probably because they'd used up their rights to permitted development already with the other extensions. So any further extension would need a permission, even a minor one like this. And that's a guess anyway. If they hadn't have used up all their PD rights, it probably wouldn't have needed permission. So that's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Any questions? I'd like to leave on this one. No proposer? Councillor Hanlon?
Nothing to say really.
And just support the application?
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's find a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Olivia Hunman. And can I have a show of hands, please?
That's supported unanimously, thank you. And the last one's Headland Avenue, isn't
Planning applications received in the week commencing Monday the 4th of March. LW/24/0144, 17 Headland Avenue. Erection of a single-storey rear extension, installation of an additional rear dormer, replacement of flat garage roof with pitched, provision of driveway with associated hard/soft landscaping, extending 2 existing drop curbs and addition of a new front wall/sliding gates.
It's quite a mouthful. But it's pretty straightforward, except members may query why it's proposed to put this, to raise the roof of the garage to this level. Because it doesn't actually say in the description what they want to provide there. It just says raising flat garage roof to provide pitch, and then that's it. That's a possible discussion point anyway.
Councillor Marwell.
Yes, I went to have a look at the sort of building works going on at the moment. So I thought the garage bit was a bit odd. And the reason it's a bit odd is because clearly whatever they're going to do to the property, they will improve it, because it's pretty basic at the moment. What I couldn't understand is, because they've got a bit of a gap between the garage and the house, I mean, it's probably finance, but you could almost incorporate the, instead of having the gap, because have you walked up there?
No, but I'm see just by looking at the plan.
Yeah, but what's interesting, it's just odd, because what's interesting is I then walked up the street, I looked at both sides. Other properties that have a similar frontage then have a roof that goes down crossing down. This is going the other way. So they have roofs that go this way, not that
A
way.
lean-to with the garage underneath.
With the garage underneath,
Yeah.
attached to the house.
Mm.
So if you were thinking of making it similar to those, because there is some uniformity in the road, you could have just extended the garage with the pitched roof, and the roofs are quite high on the garages, and they may have lofts or whatever, but they all go. How can I put it? They all go. They look like that, whereas this looks like
They're
this.
attached to the main house as
And
well.
yes,
Yeah.
they're attached to the main house. So it's a little bit odd that they've then got this property that's sort of,
Mm.
so it doesn't fall true that I'm sure they're going to do great things to the property, but looking at other properties, it's just a bit of a strange
So
way to do it.
you support the rest of the scheme then?
I do support the rest of the
Mm.
scheme, but it would be quite nice to know why they think they need to do that. I don't know, it's a bit like the tree applications. Why do you want to do this? Because it's so not in keeping with other properties in the street.
Councillor Libby Hanlon.
Yeah, I made a note here as well, that there was no design statement.
Yeah, they don't have to put a design statement in where the development is sort of anything less than one house, if you like. So
Right.
any extensions and that, some diligent consultants and architects put in a design statement where they think it will help them, but you don't have to. It's only developments of one house or above. Or
So significance and
yeah, this is officially a householder development, which is a sort of fast track one.
It's also quite handy to have, because it's also quite good, like as Sally said, just to get the
Well, I mean, with the
background and
bin
understanding
store, at least he made the effort to put an explanatory statement in. He didn't have to
There
do
was a
it.
good explanation.
Yeah, so yes, he doesn't have to, and but it's a shame sometimes because you can't work out all the things you need to work out from just the plans alone. But architects tend to sort of think that their plans are very lucid and don't need an explanation.
See, with my looking at that, my thinking, they're making the second floor in the garage.
Yeah, but it's the fact that it's separated and quite tall. It's like
It just doesn't look right.
no, I mean
And
that's
it's-
exactly what we said to each other.
Yeah.
I said it looks like a boathouse.
Does, yeah.
But you know, he said if he'd have said raising the flat roof of the garage, providing a pitch roof to provide additional storage or something, at least that would have been a bit more helpful. But he doesn't, or he or she or whoever drew it up, just says raising flat roof of garage to pitched, comma. That's it. So.
His pitch to me is that.
Well, yes, it's sort of a
hip,
hit. It's hit, isn't it? But I suppose it counts that as a pitched roof. I don't know. It's odd. Is that the fact that it's hipped? I suppose it's in character with the larger property, as extended, but like a miniature property, but it just doesn't sort of gel, does it?
Yeah, no. So I'm getting a feeling that you are happy with the extension and all the other works, other than the garage.
Yeah, but you consider the garage to be
I mean,
proposed garage to be out of keeping with
at the moment,
with the character and appearance of other properties in the area.
at the moment though, I have to say, Chair, the garage is already out of character with the other garages in the road because it is an absolute flat. It's a flat garage, so it's just literally been a garage that's been put there with no attachment to the house, whereas others have got attached. So it was already looking a bit odd.
But this makes it worse.
But I think this makes it look.
Yeah.
And they mentioned that, because it's double the height, and it's not a pitch, it's a
Yeah, yeah.
on the plan.
It's more obtrusive than an ordinary pitched roof, isn't it?
Yeah. Because if it was pitch, it would pick up with the pitch roof on the dormer.
And the hip design is more obtrusive than the pitch anyway. And it's sort of the fact that it's so tall and detached from the main property, makes it stand out and sort of has an impact on the character of the street and the appearance, or the character of the and appearance of the other properties of the street, or something along those lines. If that's what the majority say.
So can the proposer,
You've got another picture of it in a different angle.
Have you got a picture of the front of the property as it exists?
Yeah, that's it.
That one is the best.
That's the flat one now, isn't it?
Doesn't look quite as nice as that.
Mm.
Well, it's because the builders are in.
Yes,
So it's already a bit strange in the way
Yeah.
that the garage was placed in the
I think it had a nice pitch roof, which they're saying, to match the door. I think that would blend in better.
You can't see the rest of the
Well, I mean, the only way you'll see the rest of the road
road.
is
Just
in
do a
the
Google map.
location. Yeah, you can only see the plan of it here.
Yeah.
But you see,
Just
it's got its
the
detached garage and the others.
They're all joined.
Yes, that's right. So it does show it to a certain extent.
Mm.
I mean, they're quite substantial properties. This one, the extension sort of brings it into line with the scale. Really, doesn't project very far back. So that part of it seems to be okay because, as you say, you said it looks the property looks to be the one in that line of houses that needs a bit of attention and modernisation.
It definitely does.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure it will look
you can
very
see it
nice.
from that really
Mm.
because it's a bit smaller, a bit like the one in Grove Road.
Mm.
Yeah.
But yes, the garage is definitely very odd. Anyway.
Right. So can I have a proposer that we're
Well, with no objection to the main parts of the scheme, to the rear extension, but consider that the design of the proposed garage with the raised roof is out of character and with the street and with the appearance of other properties in the street, and the hipped design, although it's described as pitched, the hipped design of the roof makes it more obtrusive than an ordinary pitch roof.
Yeah.
So can I have a proposal, please? I think Richard, Councillor Hunman was first, seconded by Councillor Clay, and can I have a show of hands, please?
That's that objection is unanimous.
Excuse me, Chair.
What's the objection?
Well, the resolution then, the support, the sort of qualified support, if you like, support for the extension, but not the
garage.
treatment of the
that's-
garage.
oh,
Are we at this point allowed to make any recommendations for the garage? Or, I mean, do we have a
I mean, what will happen probably is
or do
if
they resubmit
if
a
the
different
officer
plan for the garage?
if the LDC officer takes our views on board, he'll ask the applicant for an alternative design of the garage.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they do if we object on our common objection about setting down of an extension, a two-storey extension. That's what they do. They say, well, there's been an objection from Seaford Town Council. I support the objection because of the guidelines, and come back with a modified plan. And in this case, it's not that difficult because you're not fiddling about with the main plans of the house.
Yeah.
So hopefully, they can come up with something more acceptable. Or perhaps, as long as the officer sympathises with our response.
Can I just quickly come back, Chair? Well, personally, I'd rather it was joined up to the house somehow, the built against the house, even if you couldn't get doorway excised into the house, but I think it would look better, really. But that's some bigger...
It's taking a bit of a step too far, really, because it's detached at the moment. It's up to them, really. I mean, the LDC officer might suggest that, but I think it's going a bit too far to suggest solutions. We just have to really deal with what's in front of us.
Yeah.
Right, okay, we move on to tree works applications.
Oh, hasn't that, mate? Oh, we've just done that. Yes.
Okay, TW/24/0019/TPO, 26 Seaford Close.
This is just a single sycamore.
Yeah, see sycamore crown lifting to approximate 2 metres and thinning of the lower branches.
Yeah, there's a little description. I don't think there's a sketch plan, but there's a description. It's only one tree. It's quite straightforward. If I zoom it up a bit. So there's a common problem with sycamores that they sprout all over the place. Well, bow to your superior knowledge. But that is pretty straightforward.
And it's for the health of the tree,
Mm,
make
yeah.
it look
There's somebody
good.
that cares about a sycamore anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a part to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Lord used to be particularly heavy on sycamores. And he didn't
Yes.
like them.
Okay, Councillor
Propose this is fine to agree that this crown lifting gets done.
Mhm.
Is that fine, the seconder? Thank you, Councillor Clay. Any other comments? No. Show of hands.
That's unanimous, thank you.
Thank you. TW stroke 24 stroke 0024 stroke TPO 4 Barn Close.
I've got there's a
It's
little
all-
sketch plan, this one.
Ash trees,
There's a
repollard.
support from a householder, what's at the back, I should think, Monarch Gardens,
Yeah.
and sketch plan that's a reasonable effort. It's not the best sketch plan you might have seen, but it's better than I could do probably. Looks like fireworks to me.
I don't know, my 5-year-old.
There's one fire.
It was like a 6-year-old's painting of a firework display in their back garden.
Carrots growing in the ground.
Yeah, but you know, it's an effort. It's more than we get from some people, or a lot of people. And you've got the householder at the back with a letter of support as well.
Okay. Councillor Olivia Hammond?
Yeah, I was going to say as well, it seems to be the right thing to do to follow. As it said, it was already done previously. And they just want to go back to the point where they've already done it.
Yeah.
And it's already got the work booked for the 2nd of May.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was fine to do.
Councillor Richard
Yeah,
Hammond?
Barn Close, as you know, is the 90s building, yeah, wasn't it? It was infill, but it's in a valley
Squeezed
effectively.
in, yeah.
So they left the trees in the dip, didn't they? So they have to be dealt with, don't they? Which is what they are essentially doing
Here we
on
go.
that side of the.
There's a whole long
side
line
the
of
close.
trees. We get
Yeah.
obviously quite frequent
Yeah.
applications from Barn Close from various properties. Yeah.
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 So you've
Oh,
said.
sorry, yeah, absolutely.
Any other comments? So can I have a show of hands supporting? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Unanimous.
Moving on to agenda item 5, update report. To notify the committee of decisions taken by Lewes District Council on applications previously considered by this committee. And you're asked to note the report unless you've got any questions or if you want to raise anything. Jeff?
Yeah, there's the appeal application. Councillor Richard Honeyman will be familiar with it. It was quite a controversial application. After the application's reported back, there's information about the appeal on 35, is it?
Yeah, 35.
Heathfield Road.
Oh,
There was a long process on that. Amended plans came in, and the residents didn't have a chance to object to the first lot of that, the first application, but they turned out in force to the meeting when we were considering the amended application. The committee, which was obviously last year's committee, at the time supported the application because it considered that although this was at the rear of a large property on Heathfield Road, there was plenty of room to accommodate a bungalow or a new property, given the width of the drive and the amount of land available at the back, because a few years previously there'd been quite a long battle fought on a similar but more restricted backland development at 13 Heathfield Road over 13A and 13B, which are properties at the rear of 13 Heathfield Road. There was a long battle about that, where we had lodged objections, and that was allowed on appeal. So it was considered that if that scheme, that more restricted scheme at 13 Heathfield Road, just around the corner, had got approval on appeal, then there was very little chance of resisting this scheme, which had a wider access and a reasonable amount of land at the back to accommodate a property, even though it would inevitably have an impact on the properties around it, but that impact wouldn't be sufficient to justify an objection, because the plot. That was the view we took. We recommended some conditions, and the objecting residents turned up in force at the Lewes District Council Planning Applications Committee last year, and it was the officer had actually recommended refusal, which was quite a surprise, because he disagreed with the fact that the 13 Heathfield Road development got through an appeal would be a supporting factor for this one. He disagreed with that. He took exception to the scheme, recommended refusal, and that was what was carried in the end. So we always expected an appeal because, as I say, because of the 13 Heathfield Road scheme round the corner. I don't know if you're aware of the 13. It's a very narrow access to it.
There is. Originally with that in for another 13, so I can see why the other ones are going to go ahead, but it's taken a little while, hasn't it, Cheryl? This come through. Yeah.
This is just for information because it's a written representation appeal, and we've already put in our views that we supported the application, subject to the attachments of conditions. But for the benefit of the other members who were in the committee last year, I'll show you the basic plans of, if I can get at them. It's 22659, isn't it? It was a very controversial application, very strong objections from the residents, and I remember there were some tears in the public gallery. That's what sticks in my mind. Do you remember that? And the idea that anyone could actually put a house on this bit of land, the neighbour got very upset, which is not uncommon. Hopefully this will get the plan. If we look at the layout plan of this, you'll see a lot of objections, more objections. Here we go. Sorry about this. That's the layout. So that's the bend, and that's the driveway. There's a very large existing property there, but the main objector was obviously from there because with the privacy of their rear garden, even though there would be a fence there, but they would have vehicles coming up and down the driveway there. But you'll see that the driveway is quite wide compared to a lot of backland developments, and there's relatively large area to develop in. And it's not the clearest plan, but you can get some idea of the nature of the
It's
scheme
quite
from
big,
that.
isn't it?
Yeah, but so it's only for information. We're not asking for any views or anything like that, because it's done and dusted really. The inspector will just have our response before him in the file of papers that's been sent to him by Lewis, and after the consultation period, or the period for submitting new representations, he'll or she will come and have a look at the property and make a decision. So we'll report the decision back. But,
Interesting one.
yeah, it was an interesting one. Surprisingly, the officer went against it. That it was a new officer took over the application in the middle of the processing of it. The first officer left and a new officer took over.
Okay.
So,
Any questions?
Shall I ask another question, Police Chair, regarding the Seven Sisters development? It does look very tired now. I mean, any news about when it might actually start, or do we just turn up? I mean, or do they announce it, or how does that normally work?
he presumed from the fact that Tesco's Express have got applications in, maybe approved by now, for the signage and the other part of it. I mean that that usually is the last stage before they will go in and start the conversion. The sort of the detail, if you like, the final detail that they need to clear up before they go ahead. But no, we never get any intelligence as to what's happening when. We just get the applications. And
Didn't seem to be any activity with them.
Can I
there's some
ask-
foxes in there. Some foxes in there apparently.
Hmm?
There's some foxes in there.
Oh, with
Well,
them.
the house itself?
In the pub.
Oh, why not? Yeah. I mean,
Well, they managed to get in, have they?
Yeah, what do they call them? A skull?
Did they get a drink?
Yeah.
When the application was made to change it from a pub to a shop, because that is an application itself, isn't it?
Yes,
The
oh yes,
change
yeah,
of-
yeah, originally it was flat.
How did that fit with the Best Ways shop that's on the other side literally on the other side of the road?
You can't,
You can't do
Yeah,
anything.
you can't refuse it on the basis that there'll be too many shops in the area.
Really,
No, you can't, it's,
because it will impact on them.
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, exactly. That's what the supermarkets do, isn't it? They pitch it so that they can sort of get the trade away from the smaller convenience shops, but they still charge over the odds from their superstores, and yes, it's happened all over, hasn't it? But you can't refuse it on the basis that it will be unfair competition for other convenience stores in the area, and it would lead to a proliferation of convenience stores or anything like that. You have to have a specific policy, really, and the only policy I've been aware of that's similar is when I was at Eastbourne Borough Council, and they tried to limit the number of restaurants in the top end of Terminus Road. Well, that didn't go down too well because it's nearly all restaurants now. But at the time they were trying to keep a mixture of properties at the top end of Terminus Road. It worked for a time. I think not more than 1 in 3 shops should be restaurants. They wanted to keep a sort of retail restaurant mix. It worked for a time, but I think in the end they just had to give it up. But there's specific reasons to keep the liveliness of a shopping parade going or something like that. You can have a policy, but in this case, it's every man for himself.
Is there any social housing on the top of it? Because it's a massive building.
Oh yeah, there's some flats.
There's flats in-
Flats.
There's some flats in the
Are they
forecourt.
private? Were they social or were they just
normal.
They're small flats, so they'll be useful
yeah?
addition to the housing mix. It was always intended to be residential, and there's quite a few flats in a block in the forecourt.
And two lots of housing as well. Some houses.
yeah.
And they're going to make up everything away a bit as well. They're going to make all that up as well.
Yeah.
Got to, haven't they?
Yeah.
It's all going to be.
Because Ocean Way is in a real state.
Oh yeah, it's going to be. That's going to be made up, isn't it? The
Is
proper
it?
road. Always got to be,
Oh,
isn't
that's
it?
good.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
You know, it's-
There was some sort of delay about responsibility for that, but it's all been sorted out now by the county. Yes, so it's an improvement, it's just a mixed development really, it's rather than residential, it's allocated for residential in the local plan anyway, and I think it's almost as many residential units as in the residential scheme in the local plan coming forward.
So it could start spring, couldn't it? Spring, summer.
It could, yes. I mean, it's a good time to start, and I think, as I say, applications for signs is a pretty good indication because it's the final detail. And but as I said, we're the last people to hear what's going on normally. I mean, nothing against LDC planners because they don't know either. You don't carry on a dialogue after consent's been given. That's it.
You don't know.
Unless they've got conditions to discharge.
If there's exactly. If there's some extra conditions, they've got to make sure that's all sorted out.
But,
Okay, if there's any other questions, can I ask you, raise your hands, note the report?
Thank you.
Noted, thank you. And that concludes the meeting at 8:15.